Nobody took much notice of Halloween back in the 70s. America was less of an influence on our lives in those days. I lived on a farm a few miles from civilization, living in a world of my own and making my own entertainment. Come October, and the smell of autumn was in the air, damp leaves and smoke. There were conkers and chestnuts to gather, and walnuts from the tree outside my window. The leaves in the orange sunlight would cast dancing shadows, filling my room with make-believe monsters clawing at my bedroom wall. I had a fascination for the mysterious and the spooky. The Usborne Book of Ghosts from the school library was my favourite. My dad reckoned the medieval farmhouse we lived in had a ghost or two. Not that I'd experienced anything apart from scaring myself with my own imaginations late at night in the dark passageways and corners. On my way home from school there was an avenue of horse chestnut trees where I would happily break open these spiky padded purses filled with lovely shiny conkers, soon to be weighing down the pockets of my parka coat. Back home I'd find a metal skewer in the kitchen drawer and bore holes through them, stringing them up with orange baler twine, ready for break time at school the next day, where we would have conker fights. Some people talked about baking their conkers in the oven or pickling them in vinegar, apparently making them harder and more difficult to smash. But I didn't have time for any of that. Mine were 100% natural, and I'm not sure it made that much difference, as I chalked up a few victories against these pickled wonders. Another popular activity from the season was to wander down to the woods after school to collect chestnuts. I remember walking back up the track as the darkness fell and hearing the blood-curdling scream of a vixen, and my footsteps in my Wellington boots would quicken. We'd roast those chestnuts in an ancient pan, something that was probably hand-forged by the local blacksmith. We also used to gather up what were colloquially known to us as iron pears. Not sure what the actual name of the variety was, but in the paddock in front of the house there was a crooked tree that gave a crop of huge, rock-hard pears that would be tasty, if a little gritty, once stewed up for a couple of hours with cinnamon and sugar. On the kitchen table I'd start the unrelenting task of hollowing out and carving a scary face from a swede, because I'm not sure pumpkins had reached rural Kent in those days. The smell of a swede cooking in a candle was quite evocative that it was that time of year again. Of course, trick-or-treating didn't enter my mind as I lived on a farm a quarter of a mile from the main road with no neighbours to speak of, but I did like making costumes and dressing up. I decided a vampire was the way to go. A cloak made one feel very powerful as you swished around in it, bearing your homemade orange peel fangs. Yes, the peel of an orange do make very good vampire teeth. And a balloon, some flour and water paste, and some newspaper can make you a very good scary mask. Nowadays, Halloween has become more of an October event and supermarkets become filled with all sorts of plastic skeletons, cobwebs and animatronic horrors. But based on the evidence of photographs my brother-in-law sends from the States, we still haven't quite caught up with America yet.